You've learned how to stay silent in the middle of the storm. But then what? Does someone come to pull you out of it? In today's episode 2, we're diving into a hard truth. No one's coming to save you, and why that might just be the best news of your life. Part 1: Who's coming to change my life? Have you ever asked yourself this question? Who's going to come and change my life? Not when you're happy, but in those quiet, heavy moments, when you're sitting alone in that same familiar room, and suddenly, the silence gets too loud. After a message that hits you right in the chest. When you feel like everything you've been trying for is going nowhere. And a thought whispers through your mind. Maybe someone will come. Someone will help me through this. Stop for a second. Be honest. Are you still quietly holding on to the hope that someone will show up and pull you out of this place? A mentor, a true love, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. A phone call, an email, a conversation that changes everything? If you nodded, you're not alone. Because Samantha used to believe that too. She's 38. Just an ordinary woman living in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado. A dental assistant. Every morning, she made coffee for the head doctor. Every evening, she made dinner for her 2 kids. She married her college sweetheart at 23, dropped out of med school to support his career. She used to say, "I'm the woman behind his success." And for over a decade, Samantha defined herself through those roles. His wife, their mom, the one behind the scenes. Until one day, her husband looked her in the eyes and said, "I need to live my truth." There was no one else. No affair. No drama. He just felt tired, lost, like he wasn't himself anymore. And then, he left. Samantha didn't scream. She didn't break down in public. She didn't beg him to stay. On the outside, she was silent. On the inside, she shattered. She still went to work. Still picked up the kids. Still went grocery shopping, paid bills, smiled and said, "I'm okay," to the neighbors. But some nights, after the kids were asleep, she sat alone in the dark living room. And she felt invisible. No one asked, "How are you holding up?" No one hugged her and said, "I'm here." So she started counting the days. Not to live, but to hope that someone would show up. One Saturday night, her childhood best friend, Rachel, invited her out for a drink. At first, Samantha said no. Too tired, not in the mood, didn't want to talk. But Rachel insisted. Just an hour, no life talk, just beer, laughter, and me telling you how my boss loves cats more than people. Samantha laughed, and went. That night, in a dimly lit bar with old rock music and soft buzz in the air, Samantha suddenly blurted out, "Do you think someone's gonna come help me through this?" Rachel didn't laugh. Didn't sugarcoat it. She just looked at her, took a long breath, and said quietly, but clearly, No one is. At first, it felt like a slap. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. Driving home that night, under a sky full of stars, with slow radio music playing, those words kept echoing like a broken tape. No one is. No one is. No one is. The next morning, Samantha woke up, not sad, but with a kind of clear emptiness. Like waking up from a long dream, the kind where you keep waiting for someone to show up and shake you awake. But then you realize, no one's coming. It's just you. Just a new day, a tired body, a blank page, and a pen waiting for your hand. And that, believe it or not, is where real change begins. Not when someone arrives, but when you stop waiting for them. That moment is the beginning of freedom. In today's episode, we'll continue with Samantha's story. How did she get through the grief? How did she stop waiting and start living? And why is realizing no one is coming to save you actually the most powerful truth of all? Part 2: The truth. No one's coming to save you. That night, when Samantha got home, Rachel's words echoed over and over in her mind. No one is. She didn't turn on the lights. Didn't switch on the TV. Didn't even go to bed. She just sat there, on the couch. Still, silent. And it was like the words weren't just in her head anymore. Like someone was standing behind her, whispering it again. No one is. At first, the phrase felt bitter. Sharp, even cruel. What about me? I was there for them. I showed up. I listened. I gave. And now, when I'm the one falling apart, no one's here. She felt like someone stranded in the middle of the ocean. No life jacket. No boats. Just deep water and a cold night sky. But then, a few days later, one quiet morning, scrolling Instagram while waiting for her coffee to brew, her eyes stopped on a plain little quote, buried in a muted gray background. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. She didn't know why. But in that moment, something unlocked inside her chest. Her breath caught, her eyes welled up. She sat down at the kitchen table, phone still in hand, and cried. Not because she was sad, but because, for the first time in months, something finally felt true. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't comforting. It wasn't another hollow, self-love quote. It was real. You have power over your mind, not outside events. That morning, Samantha realized she wasn't powerless. She was just looking in the wrong direction. All this time, she'd been focused outward. Is he coming back? Do people understand what I'm going through? Does anyone see how hard I'm trying? All things she couldn't control. And the more she looked out, the more drained she felt. The next day, instead of staying in bed until the last minute. Samantha got up 30 minutes earlier. Not to go to the gym. Not to meditate. Not to read a self-help book. She just sat, still, at her kitchen table. Tore out a sheet of paper. Folded it in half. And wrote 2 columns. White small square left side. Things I can control. How I think. How I raise my kids. How I speak to myself. What I eat. How I sleep. How I show up today. White small square right side. Things I can't control. Whether he comes back. What others think of me. Who leaves. The past. What I've lost. She stared at that page in silence. And what she saw wasn't loss. It was clarity. For the first time, she understood. I don't have to wait for someone else to change my life. No one could make her feel worthy if she didn't choose it herself. No one could give her peace if she didn't offer it to her own heart. No one could pull her out unless she let go of what was holding her down. From that day on, those 2 columns became her morning ritual. Just 5 minutes. But it gave her a compass, a direction to return to when the day got heavy. And whenever her mind drifted back into old pain, she'd pause and ask herself, which column am I focused on right now? Is this within my control? If not, why am I letting it steal my energy? No, it didn't make the hurt disappear. It didn't bring him back. It didn't suddenly make people understand her better. It didn't fix her life. But it brought her back to herself. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was present, inside her own skin. And morning by morning, Samantha began stepping out of the role of the victim in her own story. No longer the abandoned one. No longer waiting. No longer counting the days until he returned. No longer blaming timing, people, or fate. Instead, she asked one small, powerful question. What can I control today? Marcus's quote wasn't just a line anymore. It became her inner framework. You have power over your mind, not outside events. She read it every morning. And little by little, it stopped being a reminder. It became a truth she lived by. In the next part of the episode, we'll explore how that shift, from waiting to owning, changed the way Samantha showed up in her life. And how she started rebuilding herself into someone solid, clear, and no longer defined by outside validation. Part 3 From Outside to Within, the Mindset Shift. If you grew up in a Western country, or honestly, almost anywhere in the world, you were probably taught this. If you want a good life, you have to achieve something. From a young age, you heard things like, do well in school so you can get a degree. Get a degree so you can land a good job. Get a stable job so you can buy a house. Have money, or no one will love you seriously. Stay attractive, or you'll get left behind. The list never ends. Every time you reach one goal, another shows up. like a ladder with no top step. Samantha lived by that belief too. She thought, if I do everything right, love my husband, raise my kids, stay in shape, work a steady job, never complain, never ask for more, then life will be okay. But when her husband left, she was hit with a cold truth. None of it stopped things from falling apart. She had a roof over her head, 2 healthy, beautiful kids, a decent job, a body she'd taken care of, even after 2 pregnancies. And yet, there she was, alone, empty, lost. And that's when she stumbled into a truth no one ever taught her growing up. If your mind is a mess, nothing outside will ever be enough. But if your mind is steady, you can lose everything and still stand tall. Stoicism doesn't promise that life will be fair. It doesn't say you'll avoid heartbreak. It doesn't guarantee that love will stay, or that your efforts will always be rewarded. What it does say is this: you can't control the storm, but you can become a better sailor. And that's what Samantha set out to do. Not by reading 10 self-help books. Not by plastering motivational quotes on her bedroom wall. But by slowly becoming the architect of her own mind. She stopped playing the role of the noble victim. She stopped repeating the story of how much she'd sacrificed. She stopped waiting for someone to understand her pain. And she started rebuilding, one brick at a time. Not some grand castle, but a quiet, steady home within herself. Each day, she asked herself simple questions. What's one small thing I can do today, without needing anyone's permission? Can I cook myself a meal that feels nourishing, not just good enough? Can I care for my kids with a fresh heart, not one still carrying resentment? Can I forgive myself for putting too much hope in someone who couldn't hold it? There were no dramatic breakthroughs. No Hollywood moments of transformation. Just ordinary days. Filled with small, consistent, intentional acts. And over time, she felt sturdier. She breathed easier. She clung less. She blamed less. One day, her son accidentally spilled a glass of water. Her first instinct was to yell, like she used to. But she paused, took a breath, and said calmly, "It's okay, let's clean it up together." She surprised even herself. Not because she learned how to stay calm, but because she no longer needed to react. She no longer needed to pour her pain onto someone else. Her mind was starting to make space. Space for forgiveness. Space for agency. Like a room that used to echo with arguments, but now had windows open, letting light in. She didn't need anyone to come fix her. She just had to choose to respond differently. You see, the most solid foundation doesn't come from what you have. It comes from how you live with what's left. Samantha didn't have a miracle. What she had was this: awareness and the courage to stop waiting and start living. And that is when the real magic quietly began. Part 4. Stop waiting for a rescue. Start rescuing yourself. There's a truth we need to say out loud, even if it stings a little. No one ever graduates from Stoicism. There's no final level. No moment when you become permanently unshakable, emotion-proof, or a master of self-control. Even Marcus Aurelius, the emperor often seen as the living embodiment of Stoic philosophy, had to remind himself every single day in his meditations. Stoicism isn't a destination. It's a practice. Hour by hour, moment by moment, breath by breath. You will still feel disappointed. You'll still get angry. You'll still break down sometimes. The difference is, in those moments, you learn to look inward, not outward. You don't need to be Marcus Aurelius. You don't need to be a philosopher. You just need to do one thing. Start asking yourself the right questions. That's how Samantha began. Not by rebuilding her entire life from scratch, but by rebuilding the way she spoke to herself. She asked, "Am I living with intention, or am I just waiting for someone else to change me?" Maybe the pain wasn't about being left. Maybe she had simply forgotten how to exist without someone else defining her. Maybe when she said, "I can't live without him," what she really meant was, "I don't know who I am unless I'm attached to someone." She asked herself, "What am I feeding my mind every day?" She noticed something. Every morning when she woke up, her first thought was him. The past, the marriage, the betrayal, the regrets. Old images, stuck on repeat. And she realized, if the mind is a garden, she had been letting it grow wild with weeds. Unprocessed memories. Wounds left unhealed. Self-blame watered and nurtured every single day. Who am I still waiting for to come save me? And what if they never show up? That question made her stop. Not because she had an answer right away, but because she'd never asked it honestly before. She used to think, if my ex comes back, maybe I'll be okay. If someone new loves me, maybe I'll feel whole. If the right opportunity shows up, maybe everything will change. But all of those thoughts began with, if. And all of them lived outside of her control. So, she exhaled. A long breath. Not of sadness, but of release. The truth is, no one's coming. And that's good news. No one's coming. No one's knocking on the door saying, "I understand your pain." No one's showing up at the perfect moment saying, "I'll carry you out of this." And you know why that's good news? Because if someone else can rescue you, then they can also leave you. If your strength depends on someone else, you were never truly strong to begin with. She remembered all the times she told herself, if he truly loved me, I'd feel worthy. If my kids grow up happy, maybe I'll stop feeling guilty. If someone validates me, then I'll know I'm doing okay. Each of those thoughts was a key she handed to someone else. She gave away her power, her worth, her emotions, into someone else's hands. But now, she began taking those keys back, one by one. No one knows me like I do. No one understands my wounds better than me. No one can live my life, even for a single day, except me. And most importantly, no one can take away my inner strength, unless I let them. From that day forward, Samantha stopped saying, "I hope someone will come and understand me," and replaced it with, "I'm here. And I'll learn to understand myself, before expecting that from anyone else." And you know what? She was no longer the victim. No longer the one who was left. No longer the one who was waiting. She became the initiator. The first person to say to herself, "I won't wait anymore, I'm stepping forward." Part 5: The Quiet Power of Taking Responsibility. There's a word that makes most people uncomfortable. Responsibility. It sounds heavy. Rigid. Like pressure. When someone says, "You need to take responsibility for your life," we often hear it as blame. Like someone's pointing a finger and piling all the problems onto us. But in Stoic philosophy, responsibility isn't a burden. It's a form of freedom. Because when you take responsibility, you're no longer a victim. You're no longer being tossed around by the wind. You're no longer just someone placed in a situation. You become the one steering the boat, even if the waves are still rough. Samantha didn't learn that from a book. She learned it through the tiny, unglamorous details of everyday life. She didn't need anyone to come rescue her anymore. Because she began doing things for herself. No one told her to start reading again. She walked into a bookstore, picked up a beginner's book on neuroscience, and began underlining with a pencil, quietly, intentionally. No one told her to do yoga. She searched YouTube and found a 15-minute gentle breathing stretch for people recovering from depression. No one asked her to go for a walk. She just put on her shoes and went. Alone. No announcement. No permission needed. One day, she saw a flyer for a short-term nursing assistant course. No one encouraged her. No one said, "You've got this. I believe in you." But she applied. Because she wanted to prove to herself that she still had it in her to begin again. Each morning, instead of strong coffee and sensational news headlines, she opened a journal. Not to heal, just to have an honest, awake conversation with herself. How am I feeling today? Am I living in alignment with what I believe? Am I bringing peace to my life, or pulling myself into old loops again? She slowly gave up alcohol. Not because a doctor told her to. Not because someone shamed her. But because she realized, when she's clear-headed, She feels more like herself. She's in control. She's not using wine to let emotions explode, only to regret it the next day. And then, one afternoon, her little daughter ran up from behind and wrapped her arms around her. "Mom, I like you better now than before." Samantha smiled. She didn't cry. Didn't burst into a dramatic realization. She just smiled. Because she knew. What her daughter felt was the quiet result of hundreds of invisible, intentional acts. No applause. No praise. No gold stars. Just quiet strength. The kind that builds slowly, one choice at a time. That's the silent power of taking responsibility. You don't need to declare it. You don't need to be better than anyone else. You just need to be more consistent than who you were yesterday. Samantha didn't transform into some perfect version of herself. She still had lonely nights. Still had tired days. Still thought about her ex-husband sometimes. And all the unfinished chapters. But now, she no longer drowned in it. She stood in the middle of her life. With a heart that knew what it needed. And a mind that was ready to take responsibility. Without blaming, without waiting. She had become the kind of woman she once didn't believe she could be. Not because someone changed her, but because she began living differently. Little by little. With no spotlight. But with full awareness. And for her, that was enough. Part 6 Conclusion. Become the architect of yourself. If you've made it this far, chances are, you've been there, like Samantha. Sitting in a quiet room. Feeling like you've disappeared from the world. Maybe you've stared at the ceiling in the middle of the night and wondered, when will someone come and take me out of this place? But now, you know the truth. No one's coming. No one's saving you. No one's going to change your life for you. And instead of that being a scary thought, it might just be the best news you've ever heard. Because when you stop waiting for someone to show up, you finally return to the only person who can truly change your life. You. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are no longer the child lost in the world, tossed around by the tides. You are the one building the foundation of your life. Every action you take is a brick. Every thought you choose to believe is a beam. Every decision you make today is a bridge to who you'll be tomorrow. You might not build the perfect home overnight, but you can start with one strong corner inside yourself. No one can live your life for you. No one will fully understand your journey. No one can walk the path in your place. But you already have everything you need to begin. You have awareness, choice, and the freedom to decide your next step, one step at a time. And remember this: an architect doesn't need to know everything from day one. They just need to show up and keep building. So do you. Even if today, all you do is wash the dishes, with a different mindset. Even if you simply say, "It's okay," to someone who once hurt you, and that becomes your quiet way of forgiving yourself. Even if you choose water over wine, or choose silence instead of sending that bitter message. Each of those moments is part of your inner blueprint taking shape. And one day, you'll look back and realize, I rebuilt myself with my own hands, my own heart, and the quiet, conscious choices I made every day. Have you ever waited for someone to save you? What happened when you stopped waiting? You don't have to share the whole story. Just write one thing. Who knows, maybe that's how your journey truly begins. Tap like if this video felt like the reminder you needed today. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Pain is a teacher, not an enemy. We'll go deeper into the role of adversity, not as a villain, but as life's silent coach. And if you know someone who feels lost, someone who's still waiting for someone to come and save them, send them this video. Not as advice, but as a quiet reminder. They're not alone, and they can start from within.